Hey there. Today, we're diving into something that's, well, it's a sensitive topic, but a really important one that so many families navigate. We're going to talk about burying a cremation urn. Not just the rules, but really the journey of it all, how it can be a path to finding some closure and peace. So let's start with the biggest question right off the bat. This is it, right? It's one of the first things people wonder about when they're in a tough spot. You've chosen cremation, but what's next? Is burial still on the table? That uncertainty can feel like a lot, but thankfully, the answer is actually really simple. And there you have it, a big, resounding yes. It's not just possible. For many, it's one of the most powerful and meaningful choices you can make. It's this beautiful way of blending a modern choice, like cremation, with that timeless, grounding tradition of burial. Okay, so we know it's possible, but why do families make this choice? Let's move past the yes or no and get into the heart of it. The deeper emotional reasons, the why behind wanting to create that permanent resting place. Even after the cremation is done, there's just something about a burial that feels complete. It's an act that gives this very real sense of closure, a feeling that you've seen a final journey through to a peaceful end. It really marks that final moment of laying someone to rest. Now this is a big one. Think about it. It's about creating a physical anchor for memory. It's having that one specific spot, a gravestone, maybe under a favorite tree, where you can just go. A place to visit, to talk, to leave flowers on a birthday. It lets memories gather in one place. So if you boil it all down, it's about these things right here. It gives a sense of permanence in a world that's always changing. It provides that physical place to visit we just talked about, which becomes a focal point for memories. And I love this last one. It's a way to honor old family traditions. Or hey, maybe even start a new one. All right, let's switch gears a bit to the practical side of things. We've talked about the emotional why, so now let's get into the what's and the where. And honestly, it's probably a lot less complicated than you might think. So where can you actually do this? Well, here in the United States, you've got a few main options. The most common, of course, is a cemetery, and that can be public, private, or even a green cemetery. Lots of places now have these beautiful, dedicated urn gardens, too. And yes, burying an urn on private property is also an option. You just need permission from the person who owns the land. And here's some good news. You don't have to worry about navigating some big, complex national law. The rules are all handled at the local level, by your city or county, and by the cemeteries themselves. It makes the whole process feel much more direct and, frankly, manageable. Okay, so you might hear this term thrown around when you talk to a cemetery. Urn vault. What is that? It's really simple. It's just a protective outer box that the urn goes into. The only reason for it is practical. It keeps the ground from sinking or settling over time, so the gravesite stays nice and level. So if you're working with a cemetery, what can you expect? Well, it's usually a pretty standard list. They might require that urn vault we just mentioned. They'll have a specific depth they use, usually about 2 or 3 feet down. And then there's some basic paperwork, like the cremation certificate and an authorization form. Best bet is to just call the cemetery office first and ask. Okay, now that we know the rules, let's actually walk through the steps. Whether you're choosing a cemetery or a special spot on private land, there's a clear path to make sure everything is done respectfully and correctly. For a cemetery burial, the process is really structured and straightforward. Step 1, just call their office and get their guidelines. Step 2, choose an urn that works and a vault if they need one. Step 3, get that simple paperwork together. And finally, Step 4, schedule the burial with their staff. They pretty much handle it from there. Now, if you're going the private property route, the steps are a bit different, but just as crucial. First and foremost, you absolutely have to get permission from the landowner. Then, be really thoughtful about where you choose the spot. Stay away from any utility lines or water sources. Dig down at least 2 feet. And finally, it's a really good idea to keep a little record of the location so future generations know where it is.
This chart is super helpful for seeing the differences side by side. A cemetery is public and they take care of the grounds forever, but you've got their rules. Private property is so much more intimate and flexible, but its permanence really depends on who owns that land down the road. There's no right or wrong answer here, just what feels right for you and your family.
All right, we've covered the where and the how, so let's talk about the what. The urn itself it's so much more than a container. It's the vessel that will hold your loved one, and choosing it is a really personal, really meaningful act. So if you're planning on burying the urn in the ground, you'll want something that can handle being underground. Metals like bronze or stainless steel are super durable. Stone and marble, they're just timeless and strong. But then you have this other beautiful option, biodegradable urns, which are designed to return to the earth naturally. It's a really eco-friendly choice. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It's not a practical chore on a to-do list. It's about finding that one piece that just feels right, something that reflects the personality, the spirit of the person you're honoring. It's really a final physical act of love. And for some families, a standard urn might not feel quite right. If you're looking for something that's really one of a kind, there are artists who create these incredible handcrafted memorial pieces. Places like Spirit Pieces feature their work. These are urns that feel deeply personal, like they carry a story inside them. And that really brings us full circle. We've gone through the practical steps and the personal choices, but it all comes back to this one thing, finding a sense of peace and closure in all of this. Because at the end of the day, after all the decisions are made, this is what it's really about. The act of burial is about creating an emotional home base. It's giving yourself a place in the world where your grief and your love can just rest. It's about giving your heart a place to land so it can start to heal. I absolutely love this idea. Choosing cremation and burial isn't about breaking with the past. It's an evolution of tradition. The act of placing that urn in the earth carries every bit of the same weight, the same love, the same respect as any burial ceremony from any time in history. It's tradition, just reshaped for today. So what are the big takeaways here? First, please know that you can honor your loved one in a truly beautiful way. Second, you can give them a final resting place that feels like home. And most importantly, you can do all of this legally, respectfully, and absolutely filled with love. So I'll leave you with this. In the end, this is the only question that really matters. Beyond all the rules and all the options, the right path is whatever brings comfort and peace to you and your family. It's about what helps you remember and honor a life well lived.